hope you had a great long weekend, and hope you're ready for week 2 of getting ready for 7th grade. So today we're going to start the second quote-unquote module in this section, and the first lesson we're going to be doing is identifying equivalent ratios. So luckily this is something that you've already learned in 6th grade, so this is going to be a breeze for you. Okay? Ratios are huge in 7th grade, so it's good to go over this again. So for our Explore activity, we're going to just review what equivalent ratios are. We know that what they do is they name the same comparison. So if we're saying that we have a ratio of 2 to 3, that means, for example, for every 2 boys in the class, there are 3 girls, right? So when you create equivalent ratios, they're still comparing the same ratio. So if I multiply both my 2 and my 3 by 4, I get 8 to 12, which is an equivalent ratio to 2 to 3. Okay, so if there are 8 boys in the class, then there are 12 girls. It's the same ratio as the original. Now, going backwards, you can also, so the first, what we learned this, at the beginning of the year, you can take a ratio, multiply it by any number, top and bottom, and you get an equivalent ratio. And then you can also go backwards and start with a ratio and divide both the numerator and denominator by the same number and get an equivalent ratio. Okay? So let's take a look at part A. The ratio 5 to 3 compares the number of blue beads and red beads used to make a keychain. We're going to make a table to write equivalent ratios and multiply both terms of the ratio by the same factor. So this is how we first learned about it. We had blue beads 5, red beads 3. So if we take both of those and multiply by 2, we get 10 to 6. If we multiply them both by 3, get 15 to, 18, 3 times 3. Sorry, I had a moment. I was looking at the 6. 3 times 3, which is 9. And then we can also multiply them both by 4. 5 times 4 is 20. And 3 times 4 is 12. These are all equivalent ratios. So using our table, we can write 3 ratios that are equivalent to 5 to 3. So we're going to just write it in the same format with the fraction format. So we can do 10 to 6, 15 to 9, and 20 to 12. And you could go on and on and on, right? We can multiply by 5, we can multiply by 6, we can multiply by 20, and they'll all be equivalent. Now for part B, we're going to see how we can divide to find equivalent ratios. Again, this is all review. We've done this. So what we can do is we can divide both terms of a ratio by a common factor. Okay, so we're going to take our 6 to 12 ratio here, and we're going to divide it a few different ways. First thing we could do is we could divide 6 and 12 by 2. So if I divide 6 by 2, I get 3. And if I divide 12 by 2, I get 6. So 3 to 6 is equivalent to 6 to 12. We could also divide 6 to 12 by 3. So 6 to 12 divided by 3. Each one we're going to divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 12 to 4 is an equivalent ratio to 6 to 12. Finally, I could even divide my 6 to 12 each by 6. So I can divide top and bottom by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So these are all equivalent ratios. So now we're just going to write them out here. We have 3 to 6, that's an equivalent ratio, 2 to 4, and 1 to 2. Okay? All right, so let's do the your turn. We're going to write 2 equivalent ratios for each of these that are given. Okay, so for number 1, I'm going to try multiplication because I already can see that these are both prime numbers and they're not going to have any factors in common. So let's try, first let's multiply by 2. If I multiply the top by 2, I get 4 and I multiply the denominator by 2, I get 10. Okay, so that's one equivalent ratio. Now let's take the 2/5 and let's multiply it by 3. Okay, 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 3 is 15. There's two equivalent ratios. Now you can do any two numbers you want. It doesn't have to be 2 and 3. You could start with 5 if you felt like it. You could start with 10, 20 to 50, right? They're all going to be equivalent ratios. Okay, for number 2, I see that I can divide here by 2. So let's try that. To start off, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that's one equivalent ratio. Now, I can't divide by anything else, so next I'm going to multiply. Let's multiply them both by 2. 6 times 2 is 12, and 8 times 2 is 16. There's two equivalent ratios. Okay. And number 3, let's multiply again. Let's change it up this time. Let's do times 5, just for fun. 7 times 5 is 35. 2 times 5 is 10. That's an equivalent ratio. And let's do times 10, just for fun. 7 times 10 is 70. 2 times 10 is 20. Just to show that literally any number that you pick to multiply by will give you an equivalent ratio. Of course, the most common ones to use are 2 and 3. But you can do any one you want. Okay? So now, we're going to take a look at our guided practice here. So what you guys are going to do is pause and try this on your own. Remember, the guided practice kind of walks you through it. You can take a look at your independent practice. It's similar. They want you to be filling in the blanks here. So these are 3 equivalent ratios. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the blank by figuring out what was multiplied here. So if I got 64 from 8, what did I multiply by? And then you can use that to figure out this missing term. And then do the same thing for the last one. What did I multiply 5 by to get 60? And then do the same thing here. Okay? So you can go ahead and try these two, both of these, and then unpause and we'll check our answers. Also, make sure you answer the essential question check-in. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay, guys. Excuse me. So for number 1, well, the whole thing is number 1. They just broke it up, but first we're looking at 5 to 8, and then that's turning into something to 64. So they're talking me through it. Divide 64 by 8 to see what the common factor is. I also showed it the way that I showed it to you guys in class. So I know that I'm doing 5 to 8 and I'm getting to this 64 here. So I know I would multiply 8 by 8 to get 64. So that means that the 5 had to be multiplied by 8, which means your missing number is 40. Okay? And then the second number here, 62 something. Again, I set it up my way. So I know that 5 times 12 gives me 60, which means I have to multiply the 8 by 12, which will give me 96. But walking through, we're dividing 60 by 5 to figure out the common factor, which is 12. You can also just do it in your head. And then you're going to multiply the 8 by that 12 as well to get 96. Okay, and for the essential question check-in, how can we use multiplication or division to find equivalent ratios? If you wrote anything similar to this, you're good. You can multiply or divide a ratio by the same number, and it will result in an equivalent ratio. Ta-da! Okay, so for today's work that you're going to do today, you're going to be filling in the missing terms just like up here. Only thing is you don't have to go through all this process. If you'd like to just do it my way, it's a little bit easier. You can do it like that. And do your best on number 10. It's just a word problem. It's nothing different. It's still going to just ask you for an equivalent ratio. Okay? Okay, guys. Have fun with this.